There's something school never taught you, yet it shapes your entire life. It's the way you speak to yourself when no one's listening. Not the voice you use in meetings or conversations, but the quiet monologue that runs in the background. When you're brushing your teeth, walking to the car, or staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. That voice is building your identity, your limits, your habits, or it's slowly tearing them down. The truth is, it's not the words of others that break you. It's the ones you keep repeating in your head, the ones no one hears but you. Doubt, shame, fear. If you don't take the wheel, that voice will drive you straight into anxiety, burnout, or resignation. But here's the good news. That voice can be rewired. And it doesn't take magic, just intention, repetition, and a better set of words. Today, I'll share with you 9 Stoic phrases, simple, grounded, and powerful, that you should repeat to yourself every single day. Not to impress anyone, not to fake positivity, but to anchor your mind when life pulls hard. These phrases come from real life, are backed by ancient wisdom, and are proven through practice. Stay with me until the end. The last phrase might be the one that finally shifts how you see yourself. Subscribe for more like this, and let me know in the comments. What do you need to say to yourself more often, starting today? 1. I am calm no matter what happens. Calm is not what happens when the world finally quiets down. Calm is what happens when you choose silence inside yourself, even as everything around you screams for a reaction. It's not a mood, it's not luck, it's a decision. One that takes discipline to build and strength to maintain. When you repeat the phrase, I am calm no matter what happens, you're not lying to yourself, you're reminding your nervous system who's in charge. You're taking the wheel back from panic, frustration, and the need to prove something. Calm doesn't mean that nothing affects you. It means nothing controls you. And in a world full of noise, that is a kind of power most people never learn to own. In modern life, stress is dressed up in normal clothes. It walks into the room with your morning email. It hides inside traffic, late meetings, news headlines, unexpected bills, small talk, and sideways comments. Most people spend their lives reacting. But you're not here to be most people. You're here to take responsibility for how you respond, to step back, breathe, and act with clarity, not impulse. Calmness doesn't make you passive, it makes you precise. It slows things down long enough for you to hear your thoughts clearly. And when you can hear clearly, you can decide wisely. There's a man I once knew who ran a small auto repair shop on the edge of town. Let's call him Jack. Jack wasn't rich, he wasn't flashy, but he had something rare, an unshakable stillness, no matter the situation. One afternoon, a customer stormed in, furious over a delayed part. He shouted, slammed the counter, and accused Jack of dishonesty. Everyone in the room tensed. Jack didn't. He looked the man in the eyes, waited for the yelling to stop, then asked in a low, steady voice, would you like a refund or a solution? At that moment, he did not win by volume. He won by composure. The entire room watched as anger collapsed under the weight of calm. Jack didn't need to defend his worth. His stillness did that for him. This isn't about letting people walk over you. It's about learning to be immovable inside yourself. Stoicism teaches that we don't control what happens, only how we meet it. Emotions will rise, but we are not our emotions. We are the ones who notice them, who names them, who chooses our next move. Calmness is that space between stimulus and response. It's where self-respect lives. It's where clarity has room to speak. So how do you build that kind of calm? You start by practicing in the small moments. When someone cuts you off on the road, when your child spills juice after you've cleaned the floor, when your phone dies in the middle of a meeting, you pause, you breathe, you repeat the phrase, I am calm no matter what happens. You're not saying it because it's true every time. You're saying it to make it true over time. That repetition rewires your instinct. It slows the automatic response. It brings the thinking brain back online. Over weeks, months, and years, it builds a mind that does not collapse under pressure. It sharpens under pressure. You don't need a perfect life to have peace. You need a practiced mind. The Stoics didn't wait for life to get easier. They trained for the storm. They embraced the chaos, not because they liked it, but because they knew it was coming. And they refused to be its victim. When you tell yourself, I am calm no matter what happens, you're stepping into that lineage. You're training your nervous system to resist reactivity. You're building mental muscle that can hold its shape when life tries to reshape you. And more importantly, you're taking responsibility for the only thing you were ever meant to control: your response. You don't have to meditate for hours or disappear into the mountains. You just have to start noticing when you're slipping into noise and choose not to go with it. When your mind wants to rush, slow it down. When your body wants to lash out, anchor it. When your pride wants to speak, ask if silence would be stronger. Calm is not a weakness. It is power under full control. And the power that is controlled is the power that lasts. So the next time the world pushes, don't push back blindly. Step back instead. Breathe. Repeat the words that anchor you. Let them echo through your body until your heart rate softens and your mind clears. I am calm no matter what happens, not because you're unaffected, but because you are aware. And awareness, when practiced daily, becomes a force that nothing outside you can take away. 2. I choose clarity over chaos. When everything around you feels loud, fast, and demanding, your real power lies in choosing clarity over chaos. In a distracted world, mental clarity is a form of rebellion. It's not something you wait for. It's something you create. You don't stumble into stillness. You build it, thought by thought, decision by decision, moment by moment. Choosing clarity means pausing when everything tells you to react. It means resisting the pull to spiral, to rush, to assume, to defend. It means holding yourself steady while the rest of the world shakes. Chaos doesn't always come from disaster. More often, it arrives silently, through too many opinions, too many tasks, too many assumptions, too many tabs open in your mind. One problem becomes 5 in the space of seconds, not because it's real, but because your brain was never given space to sort signal from noise. That's why this phrase exists. Not to sound poetic, but to remind you of something urgent. Clarity is always an option, but never an accident. It requires discipline. And in the Stoic sense, discipline is freedom. Freedom from being dragged around by every new trigger. Freedom from reacting to the emotion, not the event. Freedom from letting other people's chaos become your own. When you say, I choose clarity over chaos, you are not pretending that the world isn't messy. You are refusing to be ruled by that mess. You are deciding to see, not to assume. To pause, not to explode. To interpret the world from within your values, not from the emotion of the moment. This is the essence of Stoicism. A daily habit of stepping back far enough to see what's really in front of you before choosing what's worth your energy. Not every battle deserves your attention. Not every emotion deserves your voice. And not every story your mind creates deserves to be believed. Clarity begins with space. The space between stimulus and response. The space where breath lives. The space where reason can walk in, straighten its back, and ask the only question that matters: is this mine to carry? When you train yourself to return to that space, in traffic, during arguments, inside deadlines, you are reclaiming your mental sovereignty. You are not surrendering to pressure. You are standing still, watching it, and answering it with poise. There is no strength in reacting first. True strength is in choosing your response after the first wave has passed. This is not passivity. This is inner precision. Clarity is that precision sharpened by self-awareness. The Stoics were not emotionless. They were emotionally responsible. They understood that chaos starts when we forget what matters and chase everything that doesn't. That's why they wrote about the importance of logos, reason, logic, the inner order that guides you through disorder. When you invoke that part of yourself, you're not becoming colder, you're becoming more intentional. You're letting wisdom replace reactivity. The phrase isn't just for crises, it's for the small moments that build your days. It's for when you're tempted to scroll through arguments online. This is for when your calendar is full, but your mind is foggy. For when someone's tone feels off and your thoughts begin to race. It's not about becoming passive. It's about becoming selective, choosing what deserves your energy, choosing what gets access to your thoughts, choosing what matters 5 years from now over what hurts for 5 minutes today. And in that choice, chaos loses its grip. There's a reason the calmest people often speak last. They've already sorted the clutter in their mind before opening their mouth. They're not slower, they're just more exact. And that exactness is what makes them effective. Clarity isn't about knowing everything, It's about knowing what not to get lost in. It's about cutting through the fog, not trying to map it. That's what Stoicism trains you for, the ability to see clearly even when everything is confusing. The ability to step back so you can step forward wisely. So when the noise rises, when your mind starts spinning stories, when everything feels urgent, you return to the phrase, "I choose clarity over chaos." Say it until your shoulders drop. Say it until your breath returns. Say it until your brain stops sprinting in the wrong direction. Because the world will always offer confusion. What you offer back, that's where your growth lives. You can't control the storm, but you can clear the window. That's clarity. And once you learn to choose it, you never go back. 3. I let go of what I cannot control. There was a time when I tried to carry everything, every responsibility, every detail, every possible outcome, all on my back, all at once. If a project went sideways, I took it personally. If someone misunderstood me, I over-explained. If plans changed, I tried to fix them before anyone noticed. I believed that being in control meant being in charge of everything, but all it really did was wear me down from the inside. I wasn't being responsible, I was being consumed. And the more I tried to manage what wasn't mine to manage, the more I lost grip of what actually was. Letting go wasn't natural to me. It felt like giving up. It felt like a weakness. But it wasn't. It was clarity. It was returning to what Stoicism had taught all along, that some things are up to us and some things are not. You can't control the weather. You can't control how others feel about you. You can't rewrite the past, but you can always control your focus, your words, your pace, your values, and your effort. That's not surrender. That's wisdom. The phrase, "I let go of what I cannot control," is not an excuse. It's not passive. It's an act of inner leadership. It means you've stopped throwing energy into a black hole. You've stopped arguing with things that won't change, no matter how much you push, and you've started turning your attention inward to where your decisions actually begin. That shift doesn't make you careless. It makes you conscious. Most of what we carry, we were never meant to. Other people's moods, imagined futures, things we should have said, what they might think, what they didn't do. It adds up. It clutters the mind. It buries the present under layers of guesswork and guilt. And the worst part? It's invisible to everyone else. You're walking around heavy, but no one sees the weight but you. That's why this phrase matters, because saying it out loud forces you to name the line between what's yours and what's not. And when you know where that line is, you begin to walk lighter. There's a kind of quiet power that comes from knowing what not to chase. When you stop trying to fix people, prove things, or control outcomes, you free up your energy for the things that actually need you. Your integrity, your focus, your peace. The Stoics didn't teach indifference, they taught direction. They understood that we suffer more from attachment than from reality. And they knew that freedom isn't about doing everything. It's about doing what matters and letting the rest be what it is. This applies everywhere. You're stuck in traffic. The clock is ticking. You can either grip the wheel tighter and curse the cars in front of you, or you can breathe, turn up the music, and give yourself permission to not fight what's already happening. You send a message and get no reply. Your mind wants to spiral, but instead you repeat the phrase. You remind yourself, my worth doesn't live in someone else's attention. You show up at work with everything ready, and someone else drops the ball. You feel the tension rise, and you let go of the blame you can't use. You use that moment to strengthen your patience, not your frustration. It's easy to think letting go means not caring, but that's backward. Letting go is what allows you to care for the right things in the right way. It's not giving up, it's giving your attention to what you can shape. Because your mind is a finite resource, and whatever fills it fills your life. There's a kind of mental discipline in saying, this is not mine to hold. You don't owe anyone your stress. You don't owe the past your peace. You don't have to wrestle every thought to the ground. You can observe it, acknowledge it, and let it pass. That's not detachment. That's control, the kind that matters. The kind you build when you stop letting outside noise own your inner stillness. And when you live this way, when you let go of what you cannot control, you begin to reclaim time, energy, and attention. You begin to speak slower, listen longer, and move with steadiness. You're no longer performing calmness. You are it. And people feel that without you saying a word. Not because you have fewer problems, but because your problems no longer have you. So, start here. Write it down. Say it when your hands are shaking. Whisper it when things fall apart. I let go of what I cannot control. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because clarity, energy, and freedom don't live in your grip, they live in your release. 4. I act with purpose, not impulse. Impulse is easy. It's instant, loud, and often dressed up as urgent. But what feels urgent in a moment can quickly become a regret in the next. That's the danger of living in reaction. You say things you didn't mean. You do things that don't reflect who you are. And before you know it, you're cleaning up messes made by a version of yourself you didn't intend to release. That's why this phrase matters. I act with purpose, not impulse. It's not just a reminder, it's a reset. A way to slow down the emotional storm and choose a direction instead of being thrown by it. Living with purpose doesn't mean you have everything figured out. It means you're deliberate. You respond with clarity, not confusion. You move with intention, not out of emotional pressure. The Stoics knew this well. They didn't eliminate emotion. They trained themselves to master it. Emotion is information, not instruction. You feel it, notice it, respect it, and then you choose what to do with it. That's the essence of acting with purpose. It's not about being perfect, it's about being awake. Impulse is fast and shallow. The purpose is steady and deep. One pulls you out of yourself, the other anchors you in. When you're driven by impulse, you hand over your power to the moment. When you're guided by purpose, you take that power back. And that shift, that pause between urge and action, is where character is built. It's where self-respect lives. It's where the version of you that you admire begins to take shape. This isn't always easy because the world constantly trains you to react. Notifications demand your attention. Social media rewards outrage. People interrupt, provoke, and distract. You're surrounded by systems that reward immediacy, not integrity. But that's exactly why this practice matters more than ever. Purpose doesn't shout. It's quiet. It asks you to stop, to breathe, to think, to choose. And in doing so, it gives you something rare: inner alignment. When you act with purpose, your actions begin to match your values. You no longer live on autopilot. You start to recognize when you're being pulled into something you'll later regret. You sense the edge and step back instead of falling in. And slowly this becomes who you are, not just something you do. You become the kind of person who pauses when others explode, who speaks when it's needed, and who stays silent when it's wise. This isn't about self-denial, it's about self-mastery. Purpose turns you from a reaction to a response, from noise to clarity, from reactivity to responsibility. Every time you say no to an impulse, you say yes to something deeper. Your peace, your strength, your direction. That's the real power behind this phrase. It trains your nervous system to slow down when it wants to speed up. It builds a habit of reflection in a world obsessed with immediacy. And it reminds you that the goal is not just to get through the day, but to move through it with awareness and control. You don't need to be aggressive to be strong. You don't need to win every argument to stand your ground. You don't need to react quickly to prove your intelligence. Strength is often found in restraint, in the decision not to respond when you're angry, in the ability to wait when you're uncertain, in the choice to ask yourself, is this useful? Is this necessary? Is this aligned with the kind of person I'm becoming? These aren't easy questions, but they're the questions that elevate you above chaos. They keep you grounded in who you are when emotions try to pull you into who you're not. That's what Stoic practice looks like in daily life. Not detachment, but discipline. Not coldness, but clarity. Not avoidance, but alignment. So the next time you feel that urge to fire back, to prove a point, to make a decision just to feel something, stop, breathe, anchor yourself. Say the words, slowly, deliberately, I act with purpose, not impulse. Let them echo until the wave passes. Let them remind you that reaction is cheap, but direction is earned. And every moment you pause, you earn a little more of yourself back. Because you weren't made to live on reflex. You were made to lead yourself, with intention and in peace. 5. I am stronger than my doubts. Doubt doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. It shows up when you're standing at the edge of something unfamiliar. A new challenge, a hard decision, a version of yourself you haven't yet lived into. Doubt tries to protect you by whispering fear in advance. But just because it speaks doesn't mean it tells the truth. And just because it's loud doesn't mean it's right. That's why this phrase matters. I am stronger than my doubts is not a boast. It's a quiet, firm reminder that the voice in your head is not always the voice of reason. Sometimes it's just the echo of your comfort zone trying to keep its grip. I remember standing backstage 5 minutes before a presentation. It wasn't a big stage, maybe 20 people, a small team. But I felt frozen, not because I didn't prepare. I had practiced every word. But my mind was hijacked by one sentence on repeat. What if I mess this up? My palms were sweating, my thoughts were blurred, and all I wanted at that moment was to disappear. But I didn't walk away. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and told myself out loud, I am stronger than my doubts. Not because I felt fearless, but because I knew my fear wasn't the full picture. I stepped onto the stage. I delivered what I had. My voice shook at first. But the longer I spoke, the more I realized that doubt had nothing to do with my actual ability. That's the power of this phrase. It doesn't make the fear disappear. It just keeps you moving anyway. Stoic philosophy never asked you to eliminate fear. It asked you to walk forward with it. Doubt is not a signal to stop. It's a sign that you're growing, that you're touching something unfamiliar. And that unfamiliarity, that tension, is where the breakthrough lives. When you say, I am stronger than my doubts, you shift the focus away from the noise in your mind and back to the truth in your actions. You stop overthinking and start taking the next step. Most people wait to feel ready before they begin. But readiness is often a lie. There will always be one more reason to delay, one more weakness to fix, and one more criticism to avoid. If you wait for confidence to come before you act, you'll be waiting your whole life. Confidence doesn't come first. Action does. Clarity comes from doing. Strength comes from showing up even while you're unsure. And doubt, when met with forward motion, begins to lose its grip. The Stoics understood that your mind can be your ally or your opponent. The way you train it matters. They taught that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the ability to move forward despite it. They didn't avoid pressure, they leaned into it with intention. And that's what this phrase brings you back to. A quiet confrontation with the part of yourself that wants to play small, and a decision to act bigger anyway. It invites you to ask, what would I do if I trusted myself just 10% more? And then do that thing. You'll never fully silence your doubts, but you can stop obeying them. Doubt only wins when it stops you. It doesn't have to be loud to be strong, it just has to be consistent. And that's what this phrase trains in you, a new consistency, a way of returning to your power when fear tries to take the lead. You begin to treat doubt like a guest, not a master. You hear it, acknowledge it, and then move on with what you came to do. Every time you repeat this phrase, you strengthen that shift. Every time you act in the presence of fear, you build proof that you are capable, that you are not your anxiety, that you are not your inner critic. You are the one who moves anyway. And that's what makes all the difference. Not the absence of doubt, but the presence of will. The willingness to try, the discipline to continue, the clarity to choose strength even when your confidence is shaky. So, write it down, say it slowly. Let it become your internal compass when your mind tries to spiral. I am stronger than my doubts, not because you never feel them, but because you never let them decide for you. That one phrase, when repeated often enough, becomes more than reassurance. It becomes a reality. And one step at a time, you begin to live like someone who truly believes it. 6. I grow through what I go through. Pain is never invited, but it always brings a message. You don't have to enjoy suffering to learn from it, but you do have to face it if you want to grow. That's what this phrase reminds you. I grow through what I go through. It shifts your attention from survival to transformation, from just making it through to becoming stronger because of it. And once you adopt that mindset, even the darkest days begin to have direction. Most people carry pain like a weight, dragging it from one chapter to the next. But what if it was also a doorway? A test of strength you didn't know you had. A mirror that showed you the parts of yourself that needed healing, boundaries, courage, or clarity. Growth doesn't only happen when life is smooth. In fact, it rarely does. The hardest seasons tend to reveal the most. If you're honest, you already know that. Think back to the moment that broke you. The moment you thought you wouldn't recover from. And look at how it shaped the way you carry yourself today. You may not have seen it then, but there was growth hidden in every step. Let's make it real. Think about the last time something didn't go your way. Maybe you were passed up for a promotion after months of extra effort. Maybe someone you trusted walked away without explanation. Maybe a plan you poured your heart into just fell apart. And in the middle of that loss, your first instinct might have been to shut down, to blame, to ask why me. But what if, instead of just surviving it, you mined the moment for meaning? What did you learn about who you are when things didn't go as planned? Did you realize what kind of strength you had when no one else showed up? Did you learn to stand alone with more peace? Did it expose what truly matters and what never did? That's what Stoicism is about. Not turning off your feelings, but turning toward them with courage, using difficulty as data, using suffering as refinement. It doesn't mean you wanted the pain, it means you refused to waste it. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." And when you live like that, when you face struggle not as punishment but as potential, you begin to lead your life from the inside out. Growth isn't loud. It doesn't always look like progress on the outside. Sometimes it's just being able to stay calm when your old self would have exploded. It's choosing silence when the situation begs for retaliation. It's walking away instead of proving you're right. That's what inner strength looks like. Quiet decisions that no one else sees, but that build the foundation of who you're becoming. The phrase, "I grow through what I go through," becomes a compass in chaos. It brings your mind back to what's within your control. Your response, your reflection, your resilience. It helps you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How can I use this to become better?" That single shift from victim to student changes the energy of the entire moment. You're no longer stuck in what happened. You're moving through it with intention. Sometimes the pain won't make sense until later, and that's okay. Growth isn't always instant. Some breakthroughs come quietly, weeks or years after the fact, in the way you handle a similar situation with more grace. In this way, you speak to yourself with more patience. In this way, you stop seeking validation and start standing on your own values. That's the slow building strength this phrase cultivates. And over time, it turns wounds into wisdom. You've already been through things that could have hardened you, but you're still here, still learning, still open. That means the growth has already begun. Every time you repeat this phrase, you remind yourself that pain isn't the end, it's part of the path. And even if your progress isn't obvious, it's unfolding where it matters most. In your mindset, in your character, in your presence. So the next time life throws something at you, unexpected, unwanted, unfair, pause and speak the words that reframe it all. I grow through what I go through. Say it with a steady breath. Let it rise above the doubt, above the frustration, above the urge to quit. Because on the other side of this season, you won't just be someone who made it through. You'll be someone who emerges clearer, stronger, and wiser. And no one can take that kind of growth from you. 7. I speak with kindness and truth. Words are not neutral. They build or break. They either bring clarity or confusion, peace or conflict, or strength or harm. And once spoken, they can't be taken back. That's why the phrase, "I speak with kindness and truth" matters, because it draws a clear line between communication and reaction, between integrity and impulse. It reminds you that your voice carries energy, and that energy leaves a trace, not just in others but in you. Speaking with kindness doesn't mean sugarcoating. It doesn't mean being agreeable. It means choosing your words with awareness. It means understanding that how you say something is just as important as what you say. And when you ground your words in truth, not ego, you begin to speak from a place of strength, not insecurity. The Stoics taught that communication must serve reason, not emotion. They believed that speech should be measured, intentional, and in service of wisdom. That doesn't mean cold or distant. It means honest, clear, and anchored. Kindness without truth becomes manipulation. Truth without kindness becomes cruelty. The balance of both is what earns respect. not just from others but from yourself. Every conversation becomes a choice. Will I speak to elevate or to dominate? Will I say what's needed or what's convenient? Will I act from understanding or from ego? These questions are subtle, but they shape everything. From relationships to leadership, from family to business, from strangers to self-talk. When you speak with intention, you begin to feel the weight of your words before you release them. You sense when silence is stronger than opinion. You realize that proving a point is not the same as making an impact. You don't waste language on gossip, exaggeration, or self-defense. You use it to clarify, to support, to draw a boundary when needed, but always from a calm place, never from reactivity. That is what separates noise from presence, and presence in today's world is rare enough to be powerful. Every time you choose to speak this way, you shape how others experience you, and more importantly, how you experience yourself. Because when you say something you regret, you carry it. And when you speak with integrity, you carry that too. Kindness is not a weakness. It takes more strength to stay composed in the face of rudeness than to match it. It takes more discipline to correct someone respectfully than to humiliate them. And it takes more wisdom to pause and say less than to rush and say too much. This kind of speech is not a performance. It's practice. The daily effort to speak as someone who is fully present, not just to the room, but to yourself. You notice the emotion, but you don't let it hold the mic. You let the truth speak, but only when it builds, not when it wounds. That's Stoic communication. Not artificial calmness, but deliberate clarity. Not detachment, but emotional responsibility. In the moments when you want to snap back, when someone's tone hits a nerve, or when you feel the urge to over-explain, that's the moment this phrase needs to return. I speak with kindness and truth. Not because the other person deserves it, but because you do. Because your words are a reflection of your mind, and a disciplined mind doesn't need to dominate. It simply chooses not to self-destruct. There's something powerful about saying only what needs to be said. There's even more power in saying it without poison. It doesn't make you soft, it makes you precise. It doesn't make you passive, it makes you self-respecting. And over time, that becomes your voice print, the way people remember you, the way you hear yourself, the way your presence feels even in silence. So, speak slowly when you're tempted to react. Pause when you feel the heat rise. Ask yourself, will these words bring clarity or chaos? Will they lift or break? Will they help you walk away proud or make you replay the moment for hours? That 1 second of pause is where the character lives. That's where Stoicism becomes practice. Not in what you think, but in what you say and how you say it. And if you're ever unsure, return to the phrase. Repeat it softly under your breath if needed. I speak with kindness and truth. Let it guide your tone. Let it shape your sentence. Let it protect your energy. Words don't just tell others who you are. They remind you of who you're becoming. 8. I protect my peace every day. Peace isn't given, it's protected. No one hands it to you. No one guarantees it. And once you find it, the world will test how badly you want to keep it. That's why this phrase isn't just gentle encouragement, it's a firm declaration. I protect my peace every day. It's a line you draw for yourself, a commitment to no longer sacrifice your sanity for things that steal more than they give. And the moment you begin to say it, mean it, live it, your life starts to shift in ways that are quiet but radical. You were not meant to absorb every emotion tossed your way. Not every conversation deserves your reply. Not every argument needs your voice. Protecting your peace means filtering what enters your mind, your time, your space, because everything that gets in lives in you. And if you allow the chaos of others to move in rent-free, it will fill the room where your clarity, your focus, and your stillness were supposed to live. This isn't about isolation. It's about intention. It's about understanding that your nervous system is not built for constant conflict, comparison, and overstimulation. And in a world that normalizes burnout, drama, and urgency, choosing peace is not passive, it's powerful. The Stoics called this ataraxia, inner tranquility, the ability to remain undisturbed by the noise outside. It doesn't mean detachment, it means discernment. It means looking at what the world throws at you and saying, that doesn't belong in me. When you repeat, I protect my peace every day, you are reminding yourself that boundaries are not walls, they're clarity. They're a way of saying, this is where I end and someone else begins. And you need that line if you want to live with calm, with focus, with integrity. Because peace doesn't mean a life without problems. It means having the presence of mind to not face every problem you face. Let's be honest. Not everyone has earned access to your attention. Not every invitation to conflict is worth your time. Not every opinion needs to be corrected. And not every person who pulls you into their drama is doing it out of malice. Some just don't know how to live without it, but that's their lesson, not yours. Your job isn't to fix, absorb, explain, or overextend. Your job is to recognize when your energy is being drained and reclaim it before it's gone. Every time you choose to stay out of a pointless debate, every time you say no without guilt, every time you walk away instead of explaining yourself for the 10th time, you are protecting your peace. And in doing so, you're becoming someone who's no longer available for chaos. That doesn't make you rude, it makes you rooted. This kind of self-preservation isn't selfish. It's necessary. When your peace is intact, everything else becomes easier to manage. Your patience stretches, your decisions improve, your ability to respond instead of react sharpens. And the way people experience your changes, not because you're louder, but because your calm becomes louder than their noise. You may not control what life throws at you, but you always control what you allow to stay. You control the content you consume, the people you listen to, and the stories you feed yourself at midnight. Protecting peace starts with what you allow in, through your screen, through your relationships, and through your self-talk. And the more you practice it, the more sacred it becomes. When something or someone threatens your calm, you pause and ask, is this worth disturbing my inner space? If the answer is no, you walk away without guilt, because you no longer live on the edge. You live on purpose, and your peace is proof. This phrase is a boundary. It's a filter. It's a mirror. It helps you notice where you're bleeding energy, and it helps you decide, day by day, who and what still gets a seat at your table. You don't need to explain your calm to people who thrive on chaos. You just need to live it so clearly that they can't pull you out of it. Repeat it again, slowly. I protect my peace every day. Let it settle into your system. Let it become the standard for how you answer the phone, open your inbox, speak to strangers, and treat yourself. Because when peace becomes your non-negotiable, you begin to move differently. Softer but stronger, quieter but firmer, present but not pulled. And that version of you, that's the one who no longer runs on reaction. That's the one who lives aligned. 9. I am proud of how far I've come. There's a quiet kind of power in looking back, not with regret, but with recognition. You may not be where you want to be yet, but you're certainly not who you used to be. And that matters. That shift, that growth, that survival, they deserve to be acknowledged. I am proud of how far I've come isn't about ego or self-congratulation. It's about honest reflection. It's about seeing your own journey clearly and for once, without judgment. You've carried things people never knew about. You've shown up on days you wanted to disappear. You've kept going through doubts that felt louder than reason. Maybe no one clapped for you. Maybe no one even noticed. But you didn't quit, and that counts. You stayed. You tried. You improved. Even if the progress was slow, even if it was invisible to everyone else but you. Think about that one morning when you got out of bed, even though your heart felt heavy. Think about the time you apologized first, even though it bruised your pride. Think about the version of you who used to panic in situations you now handle with calm. Those aren't small wins. They're proof. Proof that your inner strength has been building quietly, layer by layer, one tested moment at a time. You didn't need applause to grow. You needed endurance, and you've had it all along. Sometimes we forget how much we've overcome because we're so focused on what's next. The pressure to achieve, fix, improve, do more, it never stops talking. But this phrase helps you pause. It tells you to breathe, turn around, and look at the mountain you've already climbed. It brings your mind back to reality, away from comparison. Because growth doesn't always look like a new title, a new number in your account, or a fresh start. Sometimes it looks like you are more patient than you were last year. More honest, more resilient, more whole. The Stoics believed in living by virtue, not validation. They didn't measure life by recognition, but by self-mastery. To be proud of your progress is not arrogance, it's clarity. It means you're finally seeing the results of the inner work you've done. It means you've stopped dismissing your effort just because it wasn't dramatic. It means you're learning to stand by yourself, for yourself. Maybe you used to let other people's opinions shape how you saw yourself. Maybe you constantly questioned if you were enough. But somewhere along the line, you started drawing boundaries. You started walking away from chaos instead of chasing it. You started choosing peace over performance. And even if it wasn't perfect, it was progress. You are not who you were, and that's something to be proud of. So yes, you still have goals. You still have battles. You still have days when doubt creeps in. But you also have this moment, this sentence, this truth. You've made it through things that tried to break you. You've become someone your past self would be proud of. And that pride doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need an audience. It just needs to be real. Real pride isn't about impressing others. It's about respecting yourself enough to say, I've come a long way. This phrase grounds you in what's true. It quiets the inner critic that always says you're not there yet. It reminds you that your worth isn't tied to how fast you're moving, but how deeply you're changing. It creates space for gratitude, not for perfection, but for progress. Gratitude, when practiced regularly, becomes a form of clarity. You stop chasing and you start appreciating. You stop punishing yourself for what's left undone and you start honoring what's already been done. So, say it without hesitation. I am proud of how far I've come. Say it when you're tempted to minimize your journey. Say it when you scroll past highlight reels and feel behind. Say it when no one else says it for you, because it's not about waiting for permission. It's about owning your evolution. And once you do that, your next step becomes lighter. Not because the road is easier, but because you're walking it with recognition, not shame. You are not a finished product. You are a continuous process, but you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. And that experience has value. Let it speak. Let it guide you. Let it remind you that every scar, every restart, every setback, it all added to the strength you now carry in silence. You've earned the right to be proud. So don't shrink back. Stand in it. Say it clearly. Own your growth. You've come farther than you think, and you're just getting started. Every day, life tests your calm, your focus, your beliefs. But how you respond, in your thoughts, in your words, in your quietest decisions, defines the strength you carry. These 9 Stoic phrases are not just reminders. They are practices, mental anchors, tools to help you stay rooted in who you are when everything else pulls you away. When repeated with intention, they rewire your mind for clarity, emotional control, and inner peace. I am calm no matter what happens. I choose clarity over chaos. I let go of what I cannot control. I act with purpose, not impulse. I am stronger than my doubts. I grow through what I go through. I speak with kindness and truth. I protect my peace every day. I am proud of how far I've come. Each phrase holds a mirror to your habits, your triggers, your patterns, and gently shifts your attention back to what you can own, your response, your mindset, your path. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. You only need a daily intention, a willingness to pause, reflect, and repeat what matters. These are not mantras to whisper blindly. They are declarations to live through practice. In traffic, in meetings, in conflict, in doubt, use them. They don't just change how you speak. They change how you show up. So take a moment. Pick one phrase today. Write it down. Say it when the day begins and again when it ends. Let it guide your tone, your energy, and your presence. If any of these phrases have already shaped a moment in your life, I invite you to share it in the comments below. Your story might be the light someone else needs. Your words, like these, can inspire change.